Piers Morgan jump ship on Israel? Ugh.
Welcome back to
I have resisted going as far as you have done in your criticism of the Israeli government. I resist no more. We're in agreement. Piers Morgan to me on genocide on a show today. I cited retired Israeli General Yair Golan saying Israel is now killing babies as a hobby. This is also part of the reason why I don't even fucking shit on, like, a lot of people will yell at Mehdi for his commentary, but everybody plays a different role in this. Because if Theo Von is getting Trump hogs to recognize Israel doing a genocide, great. If Mehdi is getting the liberal Zionist coalition or the liberals that normally are turning a blind eye to Israel doing a genocide to get on board with this, then great. Okay? Everybody serves a different purpose in this. It's not just about like the questionable stuff that people do. That's why I don't spend a lot of time on like Owen Jones or Mehdi. Like, I don't care, you know? Not everyone is going to be perfect vessels here. They're not going to be perfect allies. And I personally don't care. I just, as long as they are, like, even if they're standing, even if they're not standing in the way, that's good enough for me. Does that make sense? Therein lies what I expect from Bernie versus why I don't constantly rail against Bernie. Do you see what I mean? Because Bernie Sanders is a liberal Zionist. Bernie Sanders is like a labor Zionist. It's pure fantasy the way he approaches the subject matter of Israel, where he's like, oh, Israel has a right to defend itself. After 19 months, that's disgusting. What an insane thing to say. Having said that, he at least has the decency to step aside when there are people who have a more radical position on this issue, and he does not fucking stand in their way and tell them to shut the fuck up or say that they're goddamn Hamas agents or whatever the fuck on a daily basis. Do you see what I mean? What's Mehdi off about? Mehdi Hasan is awesome. Zateo has done incredible work. But there are definitely still people who yell at him because he was too much on the condemn Hamas train post October 7. That's it. It's mostly just like old grievances that people have with people like Mehdi, or even like an inability to comprehend like what their role is here, what their responsibility is here. Does that make sense? I probably never once said I condemn Hamas. That shit was fucking stupid. Yeah, you're also not a professional media person who is making this complicated math equation of like, do I still get to have a prominent platform where I can say the truth about Israel? Because that's the way to unlock that, okay? Otherwise, the entire conversation turns into not condemning hummus hard enough. That's it. That's the difference. A lot of people also on Twitter will be like, wow, why are people taking these like fucking liberal ass attitudes? It's like, there's a reason. You have to fucking pay the piper. And there's obviously a complex math equation there. And there are understandable red lines that people set. Myself, you know what my red line is.
Listen, you and I have talked about this war in Gaza for ever since it started, this phase of the 75-year conflict.
Imagine saying you were going to vote for the guy over a 3-second clip. I mean, there is not a single person that is as close to power as Zohran Mamdani is that has his level of precision when talking about Israel's criminality, okay? So this is the reason why I say, like, yeah, it's a fucking bad answer, but that doesn't change my support for him at all.
And I have resisted going as far as you have done in your criticism of the Israeli government.
I got to pee.
I resist no more. I think we've reached common ground about what we view is happening and has been happening through this period of this blockade, which frankly is just starvation of the people there, including so many innocent young women and children. And I think that the incessant bombing and killing, and we don't know how many civilians have been killed, but it is on a daily basis. It looks like hundreds of people every day, with no apparent attempt, it seems to me, to have any real plan for how this ends or what happens when it ends, other than if you look at what Smodrich has been saying, probably the most right-wing member of a very right-wing government, he is talking in a genocidal language about kicking all the Palestinians out. So I think you and I have reached a place in the last few weeks where we are in agreement. But my question for you, Mehdi, is how does this end?
I don't know the answer to that question, Piers, and I'm glad we're in agreement. I wish we weren't. Actually, I wish I had been wrong and you were right. I wish that a year ago when I said on your show, you said, well, if it's not about the hostages, what's it about? And I said, it's about depopulating Gaza. It's about conquering Gaza. I wish I'd been wrong. But as you said, Bezalel Smotrich, the finance minister in the Israeli government, said this week, we are there to conquer, cleanse, and remain. Those are his words. We are disassembling Gaza, he said. We are leaving it as piles of rubble. He says, we're doing something that no one's done in the world before. He bragged out loud, and he said, yes, the Gazans will have to leave. So all of those things are stuff some of us were saying last year. I wish we hadn't been vindicated in this horrific way. The killing is ongoing. The starvation is ongoing. And look, I do hope that a dam is bursting. You mentioned the genocide word. Shmuel Lederman, who is an Israeli researcher of genocide, spent much of 2024 saying it's not a genocide, it's not a genocide. He was interviewed by a Dutch newspaper last week. He said, I've changed my position. It is a genocide. He said, in my field, there's a consensus among genocide scholars that it's a genocide. In fact, that Dutch newspaper interviewed 7 leading scholars of genocide. Every single one said, we think what's happening in Gaza is a genocide. In fact, this week, Piers, you have an Israeli former general, Yair Golan, saying a sane country does not attack civilians.
Yeah, Yair Golan had to fucking apologize, though, to be fair.
Does not kill babies as a hobby, and does not expel civilian populations. That is Yair Golan, the former deputy chief of the Israeli military, prominent Israeli politician. He was a hero on October the 7th, fought Hamas himself on October the 7th. This is what he said this week.